I'm going to make a video here about things to look at when you're buying a used truck. I have here a 1999 Chevy Silverado 1500 two-wheel drive with an automatic transmission. And the first thing you want to do is walk around the truck, look for things like that big dent right there. It tells you it's had a little bit of a boo-boo accident. Take a look at the rust, especially if you live here in Michigan. The good thing to do is don't just look at the rust on the body, but go down and look at the frame. You see that frame down there is all rusted away. It's missing big chunks of steel right down there. That's definitely a bad sign. Okay, go back here and look at the back. See what's back in there. You can see back in there's a bunch of rust too. Then come around the back of the truck. Check your back bumper. Your back bumper shouldn't be rusted through. You can see down here there's a little bit of rust through, but it's not too bad. And always take a look at your trailer hitch. Make sure the receiver is loose, that you can move it around. It's not frozen solid in there. You want to check your tailgate and make sure it latches and unlatches properly. But this truck, it works just fine. But it does have a little hang up over here in this corner. You can see right there where it's rubbing against the body. That's because this truck's had a little accident over here. If you look, this bumper's pushed right up against the body. And there's a dent right there in the back of the body. So this truck's been smashed in the rear end at some point in time. Now come around and look at the rust over here. Again, get down, look at the frame rust. You can see it's pretty dramatic down here. This was definitely a bad choice on my part. But I was in a hurry. Needed a truck fast. Come around, always check your cab corners. See the cab corners here? Want to look up, see how bad the rust is down in there. There we go. Cab corners. Usually the cab corners will be rusted in Michigan, but all this rust that's along the bottom of the doors, that shouldn't be there. That's unusual for a truck of this age. Okay, a couple things that I've noticed too are like the mirrors are being held on by zip ties. That's definitely not a good sign. Whoever's been driving this truck has not been too careful of it. I found out later it was a fleet truck for a construction company, so any Tom, Dick, and Harry that worked for the company was driving the truck. Let's go ahead and look inside. Start by opening the door. Okay, that door, when I opened it, stuck a little bit. When I close it, it doesn't close all the way. See how it's open just a little bit there? You see it moving? Okay. To close it all the way, you got to really slam it to get it to latch. So that's the door hanging bad. Okay, when you get inside, start on the left-hand side of your cab. Make sure everything works. Obviously, the lock, unlock. Okay, right there, you see the door didn't lock when I pushed lock, unlock. If I look over at the other side of the cab, I can see it is locking and unlocking over there. You want to check your power windows and your power mirrors. The windows work in this truck, the mirrors don't. Everyone forgets about down here. You got a hood latch down here. Want to make sure it works. Got an emergency brake and an emergency brake release. You want to check on those. Take a look at the pedals. See how that brake pedal's all worn off on the right hand side? That's where people hit it because they come over from the exhaust. That tells you this truck's had some heavy driving with some big boots. Okay, so the next thing to do is check your lights, make sure they work. You want to walk all the way around the truck. Check your dome light. Make sure your dome light's coming on, like that. This truck has automatic lights, and to check those you have to have it out at night, so that doesn't do you much good. The cargo lamp you should always check, but on this truck I've got a cap on it so I can't see it. When you turn on the truck, you want to look and see that everything lights up on the dash, all the lights, all the idiot lights light up, but then you want to make sure they all go off. Obviously it's not too cool if you turn on the truck and not all the idiot lights go off. You get over here to the radio, you want to make sure that all the presets take you to a station. Make sure you can actually set a station on the presets. Sometimes it'll be preset to a station, but then you can't change that preset. Make sure your volume and your tuning works. If you'll notice down here along the bottom, a lot of these knobs are missing for the bass and treble and the balance. Something you want to keep an eye on. Also on these older trucks, sometimes the knobs are there but they're split, so they're not actually connected, they're just sitting there. That's something that's kind of a drag. You can't adjust your sound at all. Try out your tape deck. Make sure you bring a tape and a CD with you, and then check your heat and your air conditioning. Make sure they're working appropriately, and also go over here to this blender and try it at all the positions it's supposed to be at, and make sure that it's working properly. And go to your fan and make sure you try it at all positions it's supposed to be at, and make sure it's increasing speed as you increase the fan. Down here I got a CD player. You want to make sure you check that. Look inside of all the nooks and crannies and make sure they're relatively clean and don't have a bunch of chewing gum in them. You look inside this console box, you see a bunch of electrical parts in here, so that tells you something. Somebody's been working on electrical parts in this truck, and that's a question you want to ask. That might be a good thing, though. That might be a good thing. Okay, come on over here, look in your glove box. Make sure there's an owner's manual in it. You need to have an owner's manual for a vehicle. It's important. Okay, and it's also good to have a light in your glove box. Then get over to the door over here. Make sure you check, make sure the electric locks and the power window switch works. Make sure the door actually locks and unlocks. Sometimes the slider moves, but it's not actually locking. And then after you get out of the car, stop and check and make sure all your seat adjustments work. Especially on these extended cabs with only 3 doors, you want to make sure this seat goes forward so you can get into the back. Then make sure with your outside doors that you can lock them and unlock them from the outside. Okay, sometimes these cars not all the doors unlock from the outside because the locks themselves are damaged. The key locks are damaged. They still work with the electric lock. So make sure you come around here and check this key lock too. This is where you would check your electric locks for this side. And then open your third door or your back door. Sometimes you have 2 of these. Make sure that swings properly and seats properly. Check and make sure the window opens and closes properly. Just make sure that window opens and closes. Boy, I'm kind of getting away from myself here. Check back here in the back window. If you have one of these slider vent windows, make sure it has a latch on it. This one's missing, so your truck isn't secure. Make sure you check the vent window on the other side. Check your seat. Make sure it goes up and down. And then also you want to look back under here and see, is there a jack under there and a jack handle? If there's not, that's kind of a problem if you're on the road and you get a flat. Even though this truck has a spare tire, there's no way to change that spare tire. Also, when you're on this side, make sure you slide the seat forward and back. Make sure that works and all the adjustments work. Okay, let's take a look at the engine compartment. When you come up to the front of the truck here, you want to look for things that are missing, like wiper blades. Make sure that your springs are on here and that they're held down by the spring. This truck's missing the antenna right here, so that can be a problem. And then you want to open up the front of the truck, make sure the latches are working properly. Okay, now we're in the engine compartment. Alright, first thing you want to look at in the engine is the battery. Look at this battery. It says $40 on it. That is a second-hand battery. Okay, so you definitely want to have a voltage tester and make sure it reads 12 volts and all the cells are working. Then work your way across the engine compartment. Here's the electrical center. All your fuses are in there. It's not a big issue, but it is nice to look in there and see if you have a fuse tool, which we do right here. Okay, so that works out okay. Next thing in here is your brakes. Make sure your brake fluid is full. If it's getting low, that means your brake pads are probably getting worn and your more brake fluid is going down the lines. Next thing down below that is your brake lines. You want to make sure your brake lines are solid, especially in Michigan. They rust out really bad, and then you're going down the road and you hit your brakes and you don't have any brakes because the brake line's ruptured. Now I want you to look down here. You can see 4 brake lines snaking down there, okay? There's 2 right here, and there's 2 over here. They put new brake lines on this truck. But if you look down there underneath them, you can see 4 brake lines running back that are all rusted and corroded. Those are the bad brake lines, and that's how they're going to look on a truck that's got a brake line problem. It costs about $100 for a kit, and it costs about $200 to put them in. You want to check your engine. Make sure it doesn't have any leaks. Take a look down there at the exhaust manifold. Make sure it's intact. You'll be able to tell right away when you turn it on if it's not intact, because you'll see gas coming out. You'll see exhaust coming out. Okay, you can see this has a pretty serious leak here of oil. It's leaking right down the side. Something to be concerned about. Down here's your power steering fluid. All you need to do is pull this out. Make sure that the level's good on it, and smell it. Make sure it doesn't smell burnt. Okay? Come on over here and look at your belt. This is a serpentine belt. It goes around everything. Turn it around and look at the inside of it to see if it's cracked or damaged at all. You can see the inside looking down in here too. You can see it down there. Okay? Alright, take a look at